Okay, well, good evening.
Good evening.
February 27th, 2022.
The Black Moon
And this is the Yellow Tabletop Conversation
conversation
Series.
with Clarity. Suzanne.
And Robert.
Yeah.
Let's see, tonight we are talking about,
So you've probably seen this because you've come to our website.
that's true.
And we hope you enjoy going through it. And I hope that it brings conversations for you too in your life.
Very true, because there's a lot of content on this website that you can explore. Everything from these conversations, and there are Creative Life Show audios that are about an hour each.
And they're arranged about different phases of the creative life.
And how to survive a creative life.
Yeah, how to break it down, how to stand all the light that it brings into your life.
How to manage it, how to work with it, and how to work through the various phases that you run into as you're creating or musing or
moving to express, because that's what life is really for. It's for expression, and the more you express, the more you live, and you're inside a living life when you're inside of expression. We really don't even really see that process in itself is a valuable part, because if you stay within and you learn to hear and you stay within your own expression of who you are, there'll be very little to process.
That's true.
You'll be in that state of being, and what you make in it will actually fulfill the needs you have. So there's very little need for laborious process or process and even reprocessing. And it's because lots of times process is really because you missed it, and you have to reprocess it again so that you don't miss it again. And what we're about is stopping the cycle of missing it.
Stop the cycle of processing.
Yeah.
And moving directly into the organic movement of expression, which is
Learning to hear yourself.
why we're here.
To hear to hear yourself, to hear what you want to express, and to hear how you do that, and be in conversation with it in the moment. And then there is and then out of it much more expression. It's very nestial, and very much more expression. Instead of spending all the time processing, you're actually moving into the next level of expressing.
And this is a new way of advancing an unfoldment of expression, because the for millennia, look how advanced we've gotten. We've advanced through the technological advances of culture, but the state of the world is still a jumble. Now you would think, after all this time, the jumbles, even though they come up now and again, would be sorted out, and there'd be a smoother, more harmonious balance to everything.
But it's not, because we don't listen.
No.
We're not in conversation with ourselves. We're in conversation with others who want us to be processing, and want us to process their ideas instead of our own.
And it becomes one of polarity, because with the process, that conceptual thought that is so big out there is either you are or you aren't, or there are different levels of you're doing that sort of thing. And that's polarity. There's a yes or no of it. Either you are or you aren't, to more or lesser degrees. But with expression, it's just an outflow from the inflow of your breath. You're musing who you are, and as you learn
more you're in touch with that.
As you learn to express from yourself and with yourself, then you can express to others even more fluidly. And that automatically creates a harmony.
Yeah, and that's been some of the conversation that we had in our alchemical read class this last week, was the whole thing about we're in a world right now that we're losing our polar distance.
Mm-hmm.
Where the polar caps are melting, but we're losing our polar distance
Mm-hmm.
in everything. You start looking more closely, and the ice caps are just reflecting what everything else is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily bad,
Because it's an expression.
because we've lived with a polar caps and a polarity as a consistent thing in our own reality. And a world reflects what it is. And we are also a platonic solid. Each planetary body is like, has a consciousness that's emerging, a planetary alchemicals, a planetary platonic solid.
Yeah.
Planetary platonic solid. And it has to become the consciousness of that platonic solid, and in its whole existence is about becoming that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like in our world when we thought it was flat and then we realized it was round. Well, we have to become round. So as the consciousness starts taking on the idea of round, a round planet, then it has to take on that in a rounded way, and
Mm-hmm.
it has to become as round as the planet is. And
Yeah.
so our thoughts have had to become more round about everything,
Mm-hmm.
not just a flattened surface.
I love that.
So there's more dimensionality in the way we think now than we thought hundreds of years ago.
So you've come into a conversation here of something that we are exploring alchemically.
Mm-hmm.
It's a an ongoing, unfolding expression of alchemy, of the the patterns, the shapes, the line, the color, the thought, the word, the breath, all of it combining in, if you will, the situla or the cauldron of our bodies, our mind, our spirit. And as they come into that space, then they begin to form and transform into an expression.
Yeah.
And if you've come to this site, you're looking. The only reason that you would be here is that there are a million sites out there talking about a million things. We are different. And you come here for that difference. That's why you've found this place in time and space, so that you can further the exploration that you're on. And that's where we must match. And ours is a life of creative expression. We do that through writing. We do it through our photography.
It's the way we live in community. We do it
Yeah.
through our own consciousness and how we see things.
Mm-hmm. So that's, we lean into the beauty of the creativity of expression.
Yes, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Leaning into the beauty.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're exploring more deeply. And that's the thing with alchemy. It is an infinity of exploration and curiosity. It's like, put these elements together, these thoughts together, and see what the combinations unfold and how you can grow in that way. And that's a life's work that we've been doing these past 33 years that
And in a
we've
sense,
come together.
we all are in a form of timeout
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole this whole planet,
Yeah.
and it's a very different thing. It's not happened before, And the thing is, we must look at it and say, why? Why has the whole planet been in a form of time out? It's
Mm-hmm.
something we all share
Yeah.
right now. And there, even those that are going out are very much more aware of their environment they are in at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they are protected in some kind of way, there is real awareness, and there's a big difference when they're home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've ever noticed the difference between out there and home that as we have now.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose in that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have found that in the creative life that it's given a huge amount of room for expression.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is there's more room for conversation.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a different kind of conversation. A lot of our are having more, what do you call that, virtually?
Mm-hmm.
More virtual conversation than really face to face, one on one. And you wonder, what is that about?
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we've realized is that a lot of things that were not available in a vast amount of areas are now available in that way. A lot of beautiful plays and events are streamed now, so that instead of being available just to the very wealthy people that could afford to go to those places and
Mm-hmm.
do that, they have, because of the change into people getting used to a virtual,
Mm-hmm.
people are able to hear concerts and be at events through streaming
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't available to them
Yeah.
before.
It's more.
Mm-hmm.
It's more. People are more comfortable with that venue now.
Yeah, well,
So
it's
they.
like the Tibetan
The Tibet
event
House in New
at the
York
Tibet House
that
in New
we're going
York
to.
that we have followed that. You know, we've always thought it was wonderful, but now it is made available
Mm-hmm.
streaming. And then to me, if I when it streams, you're really up at the front.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
like.
you've got like a front seat and a backstage seat.
Yeah.
And before you would have been just way out in the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would have cost you a lot, and you still. And so with the streaming, as a family, we can all watch it
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy it and be up close.
Yeah.
That's just not been available.
Mm-hmm. And
And
it's a very green thing to do.
yeah, but it's that way creatively too.
Mm-hmm.
When you have more permission to be home, to be in that place of home.
Mm-hmm.
You have more permission to actually open up a bigger window to it
Mm-hmm.
than just this little crack that you were able to do amongst all the other things, shopping and not if you weren't working, you had to go get all your groceries, you had to go shopping, you had to go and in this we've all had to pull back because we don't want to be out there in the large crowds. So everybody's stepped back a bit. And in that, it's like, oh, probably people won't like this, but oh, I can just do a curbside on that.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, I can just virtually watch that event.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, I can just order the things I need, especially if it's a bunch of little things, and not have to go from place to place. By the end of the day, absolutely just worn to frazzle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the little shopping here and a little looking here and a little looking there, and instead of doing that, you just sit down and order it. It comes to you, and then you use that time to create,
Yeah.
or you use that time to be with your family, or use that time to read, and it's time in a world that looked like no one had time.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a huge leap that there was time hidden from us,
Mm-hmm.
and that there was time in between all the books. There was time that we didn't know about, that were behind doors. And that kind of time we didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And now it's like
It's been unearthed.
it's been unearthed. And the thing is we've all benefited from it becoming more condensed and less straggling you out throughout, so that when you're not working, you can actually, pick up your dinner, or if you want. But all the little places that you had to go from shop to shop for, you're out of toothpaste, or you're out of this or out of that, you do a pickup all at once, or you order. You're more aware. You order those routinely to make sure that you don't run out, and so you don't have to go. I can't tell you how wearing that is to go to this store and get this one thing, and then go over here and get these two things, and then we say, oh, let's just order it, and then we have that time, and it was invisible time.
Yeah.
And it was time that no matter what you did, it's going to take you half an hour to do it. And if you had any more than one or two things, it's going to take you 2 and 3 hours. And you just thought, well, that's the only way to do it. I have no, there's no other alternative. And all at once in this time, you find there is one that was hidden. And all at once, it's like a hidden book on a shelf. It comes out. All at once, you have this hidden time that you didn't know you had.
And you can come back in touch with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because using the metaphor, if it was a book on your shelf, and at some point you did purchase that book and have it in your collection. But with the busyness of life, then that gets set aside. And this time out is really giving people a chance to reconnect with the things that were important
Well,
at
in
one
those,
time,
in
or
that,
they come back to.
in that time that all those little places you had to stop, and that time all at once is new time. So
Yeah.
if you wanted a meditation practice that was completely unavailable to you, you have it. You have the time for it. And in the middle of having a meditation practice, it relaxes you so much and creates a whole new way of being for you that all at once, new ideas of how to have more expressive time becomes available. And it's expressive time that you need. It's not process time. It's not the time uh, to to labor. It's the time to express that is so needed in this world. Because if you have time to express, then you start having things to express. And when you have things to express, those things you express actually multiply what you can express.
Yeah.
And then it can develop into an art form.
Yeah.
It could develop into being a writer, or it can develop into lots of anything that you're interested in, but that you didn't have time for. So it's interesting that you take away, because it's not so much that you don't want to buy anything from anybody. It's that you don't want the travel to there to take up all your time. I mean, it's the little things at multiple different stores that would just wear me out. And all at once, it's like, oh my God, you stopped doing that, and
You condensed it.
and it's like magic. You have this time. Then in that time, if you take it and use it for expression, in that expression is like meditation. You learn to listen to yourself, and in listening to yourself, your ability to express expands, and then the time you need for it expands with it. Because it's in those times of listening and having room to hear that huge leaps happen. That something that took 20 times to do, you learn to do in one moment. And you
I
can't
love
really
that.
figure it out. It just happens in those open moments of expression. And then all at once you think, you start having room to actually talk, where you didn't have time enough to even think about talking. So this time out, it's never happened on a worldwide basis. And that means it's really special. It's probably the only way it could have got there is the way it got here.
Truly.
Truly. But we can get everything we need from it, and we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
That we claim that space.
And the more we don't need that anymore to create
That's right.
time to have conversation and
And that
expressing with
polarity
yourself,
of
the
of
other's not
of
needed.
illness and all of that is a polarity that is shifting,
Mm-hmm.
because it is not needed as much in this world if we learn to actually what living is about.
Mm-hmm.
Living is about expression. It's not about polarity. It's not about process.
Mm-mm.
Process is something where you can't take it all in, or you miss something and you need to retake it in.
Yeah.
And that is what comes out of polarity.
Mm-hmm.
But if the polarity starts shifting out of existence, then all at once you have room to actually hear and feel what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, you have room to give it time. Because a lot of things we make are our future. A lot of things that we make are our future talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in that, when we're not there yet, we don't understand it. And we're even upset with it. But those expressions are really our future talking to us. And so as we get closer into our future, then we start to understand it, and all at once it means everything to us. And you don't have to process it, try to figure it out. Allow it room to come to you. So
And this is a time of allowing room.
yes.
This is the time of folding back into yourself so that
Oh.
you can awaken and meet yourself again.
Mm-hmm. And that you have
So
room to
so
lean into
many of us
beauty.
have been so busy for so long that it can be a shock to reintroduce yourself to who you are outside of that continual processing of life. Instead, coming back into your own voice, a conversation with yourself, the comfort that that brings, and then the ease of expression sits into you more deeply. And then your conversation with others is a very expressive one.
And it's not a time to get over.
No.
This is not a time to get over. It's a time to lean into
Mm-hmm.
and express out of it. And as we do that, we will become what we need to be, that this time came here for.
Yeah.
It came here to show us what we need in the future.
That's so true.
And this whole thing is like what's happened to everyone in the world right now is like you do a painting and you don't understand all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's strange things in the painting that maybe you quite, I don't like that. And you think you're going to throw it away, but it doesn't do you any good to throw it away. What you need
Because
to
there's a
do
purpose in why
is
it's
give it
there.
room
Mm-hmm.
to become clear to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this time, the best way we can step forward into our future is to give it time to talk to us.
Oh, I like that. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point for this yellow tabletop conversation tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Just giving it time.
Yeah, but and we called it the Yellow Tabletop Theater,
Oh yeah.
and it was so
Conversation.
funny because we made a huge thing. I think we were going to do, and we still will probably. But what it really did, it laid the groundwork to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're the characters in the theater.
I love it.
Yeah, I
We
love
animated
that too.
ourselves
We did.
into our own theater.
That's right.
I love that.
So this was to lean into beauty.
Yeah. So hopefully, as you listen to this, you can sit more deeply into yourself. Take a breath that everyone says take a breath about.
And have
but
this
take it into your own conversation. Yeah.
have this conversation with your future instead of having it come back and try to speak to you in another way even more unpleasant,
Mm-hmm.
so that you will finally sit down and express,
I love that.
instead of living in a polar reality that is constantly processing. We work with recalculation and assimilation, calculation and assimilation, corrugation, um, and
And you'll find these terms throughout the website,
yeah,
through the various books, and there are a
bringing the
ton of
distance
books
close,
available to
which is
you.
your future.
Mm-hmm.
You bring, and they're saying even planetarily
Mm-hmm.
that some planets for all at once are closer
Mm-hmm.
than they've been.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. We are working with the distance of taking something far away, and you crease and fold it and crease and fold it. You corrugate it until all at once it's right here under your nose.
Mm-hmm.
So we want a future of expression right under our nose,
Yeah.
not a future of polarity and world fear
Mm-hmm.
and disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for joining us
Yeah.
this day,
This day
this
on
night,
this
whatever
night
time
on
zone
the
you're in.
black moon,
Mm-hmm.
on leaning into beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will say goodbye for now. Thank you for joining us. If it has given you some insight and comfort, then you might mention it to your friends. They might find the same thing happening to them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We know that it does for us, and that's why we're sharing it. So until next time,
Uh huh. Thank you.
good
This
night
is
and good
this is
day.
Zane and Robert on Yellow Tabletop
Top theater
Theater Conversations.
conversations. Okay.
Clarity.
Clarity.